Tepper.
Hi everyone, welcome to Leading Women of Broadway. Who's excited? How was everyone's day at BroadwayCon? My day was so lit as well. I'm Jennifer Tepper. As David said, I'm the Creative and Programming Director at 54 Below, as well as the author of the Untold Stories of Broadway, and I am so excited to welcome these amazing, incredible women onto this stage right now. First, I want to welcome Janet Dacal. You might have seen Janet recently making a splash in Prince of Broadway. She was amazing. Or originating roles in The Heights and in Wonderland, where she led the show. Phenomenal Janet Dacal. I also want to welcome LaChanze to the stage. Known for originating the role of Tamoon in Once on This Island. She's a Tony Award winner for Color Purple. She's also been in If Then and Ragtime and so many other shows. This is the star power of the women on this stage blows me away. Priscilla Lopez. Known for originating the role of Diana Morales in A Chorus Line. Oh my God. Won a Tony Award for A Day in Hollywood, Night in the Ukraine. Also from the original cast of In the Heights. Yes, a million other shows. Vanessa Williams. Made her Broadway debut playing Aurora in Kiss of the Spider Woman. Also Tony nominated for The Witch and Into the Woods. We saw her in Trips of Bountiful, Sondheim on Sondheim. My personal favorite, the TV movie Bye Bye Birdie, which I was obsessed with growing up. And Ruthie Ann Miles. Ruthie is a Tony Award winner for The King and I, also in Sunday in the Park with George, and we have so much to talk about, ladies. Thank you for joining us. My first question, which is for all of you, is when did you first know you wanted to perform, and what was your favorite role that you played when you were growing up? Starting with Janet.
Okay. I knew very early on. I always kind of had an inkling toward music, and my parents were very supportive. My parents are Cuban, and they left Cuba. Are there Cubans in the house?
Cubans in the house.
What? I love it. They left Cuba seeking political asylum, and their big thing for my brothers and I was, we're going to a country where you can make your dreams come true, and that's all we want for you to do. And so I was very lucky to have that sort of support system at home, and because there was music playing all the time, and I was a little dancing machine with a makeshift microphone that was my mother's hairbrush, they were very quick to put me in dance and singing lessons, and yeah, that was sort of how it all started for me. Favorite role that I played as a kid? I played Grisabella in my 5th grade production of Cats. And I have to tell you, when the song goes up the octave, I went down because I couldn't. Yeah, so that was a real standout moment. Amazing.
Hi, I had known that I wanted to be in this business since I was like 7. But I didn't get my first big break until I was in high school, where I was Lola in Damn Yankees. That was my big first break, and but I secretly, but our high school did Jesus Christ Superstar, and they cast me as Mary, but I really wanted to be Judas. So I secretly still want to be Judas. If there's ever a production.
Cast her as Judas, please, universe.
But yeah, I was 7 years old.
I think with me it happened that, television was not too long in the world. And I was watching things like Howdy Doody and all those, Our Miss Francis and Ding Dong School. And I just wanted so badly to just step into that television set and be inside the world with those people. But then the thing that really did, this to me was when I went to see the movie version of The King and I. And I was so blown away. I thought it was going to be, I don't know why, I had a fit that day and I didn't want to go and I was acting very nasty. And I assumed that it was going to be like an English drama, you know, like with the kings, whatever. And when this beautiful visual fantasy, I was just blown away. And I was 8 years old and I went to see that movie 8 times and I said, that's what I need to do. So that was it. And my favorite thing, well, I mean, I didn't work till I was out of high school, so I just had this recording of The Wizard of Oz, and it had the entire screen, the dialogue on it. So I would put on this record and just do the whole Wizard of Oz, all the roles. So, yeah, that was it.
Hello, good evening. I started out dancing like first grade and did modern dance. But in 4th grade, our school did the Trojan Horse. And it was not only acted by the 4th graders, but we also wrote the music, and I choreographed the entire show and played recorder on the times when I wasn't actually singing, dancing, and leaping all over the place. So I knew that was that visceral experience, that I was in it, doing all 3 things that I loved, also composing music. And I think it wasn't until high school I did Little Mary Sunshine as a cast member in middle school, but in high school my first real starring role was the Mad Woman of Chaillot in Deer World, which is very odd for a 10th grader to play such a mature and strange piece and part. And I kind of there was a senior that everyone thought she would get it, and she didn't. I was kind of the upstart. And that was the time when I said, wow, I do this well, and I can actually major in this in college and have a career. And that's kind of when I made the switch. Okay, this is what I really want to do, and I'm talented, and I can have a career. So that's kind of my aha moment. And my favorite role would have to be Kiss the Spider Woman. That was my first Broadway role. I followed Chita Rivera, who is legendary, and I loved everything she did. And being a musical theater major at Syracuse, and having done summer, yay, SU, go Orange, but having done summer theater and high school and musicals in college, and being on the stage that night in Kiss, after going through so much hell and coming back triumphant on top. It was a collective win for everybody that I shared the stage with, and it was at that moment that people could see what I really could do. So that changed. That was a pivotal moment for me.
I wasn't thinking about theater until I was a freshman in high school. But my very first experience in theater, I had a non-speaking part when I was 4 years old in the church Christmas play, and I was a guard, and my whole job was this. Whole job. And so what I did was, so this is when the wise men are coming, and someone has to tell Herod that the wise men are coming. There's a baby who's going to be born, and it's bad news. So my whole job, when this part of the story comes, is to go, right? That's it. Well, I did something, and I don't know what it was that was so funny. I think I made like sounds behind the king's ear, and they laughed. And I went, and I did it again. And then they laughed again. And so I did it again. And I took about a minute of the play doing this, just over and over again. And they were responding. So I think I had the bug pretty early on. But I studied music. I play a bunch of instruments. My mom is a music teacher, and so I was studying to be a music teacher. I was studying to be like a band director, orchestra leader, and I was always put in positions of leadership in band and orchestra and things like that. So it was on a dare when I was in the 9th grade that a friend said, we're going to audition for the spring musical, and I was ensemble girl number 5. I went gala 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 in Once Upon a Mattress. Thank you. So Once Upon a Mattress, and it was so much fun. And I thought, now these are crazy people just like me, you know. And but we're also very talented and very musical, and you know we use our bodies. And I had never danced before that, so you know that was a really eye-opening experience. And when I was a senior in high school, they cast me as Linda Lowe, even though I wasn't part of the drama department. They let me in, and little by little, I kind of tuned that talent, and music is still very much a part of my life, playing instruments and such, and teaching. But that's when I went, this is what I want to make my career in. So I switched my majors and I changed colleges to study Shakespeare.
You've all accomplished so much as artists, as female artists, as artists of color. How do you feel like the challenges that you face in all of those areas have changed since the time that you started? How do you feel like the conversation about being a female artist, or about diversity in theater, has evolved since the time when you first started out?
Well, for me, it's kind of gone backwards. I've had a very strange experience. When I was younger, I didn't face any of the things that are happening now within the racial, ethnic conversation. I started as a dancer, so I was taking it, you know, face value as how I could dance, and then I could sing, so I did that, and I did shows, and I did shows, and I did shows. And somewhere along the line, someone said, you know, you really need to change your name. And I went, huh? And so I just spent a lot of time finding a name and came up with the perfect name, Tracy Cartwright. And decided, no, I can't do that. I can't do that to my parents. They've worked too hard to give me what, you know, they wanted to give me, so I didn't do that. But through my career, then started doing roles and whatever, and then with the chorus line is really when things switched, because suddenly I was portraying myself, because the chorus line is based on all true stories, and I was playing Deanna Morales. Now, fast forward 25 years, more. You know, I'm doing a show now called In the Heights with a bunch of Latinos who had not a lot of people to look up to. Chita Rivera, of course.
Priscilla Lopez.
And I was in shock. I went, really? You know, and in fact, Mandy, who I cherish and adore you too, but Mandy, she came up to me and she said, you know, when I saw that Z at the end of your name, I knew that I could make it, and she just floored me. So, what I'm trying to get this whole story to tell you is that I never had to deal with being put in a slot. I was just able to work through whatever talents I had and what was required of whatever role that came along. When the whole sort of Latin revolution started to happen, I suddenly found myself put in a slot. And I thought, huh? What? You mean I can't go for Kate Sullivan? Oh, I see. So suddenly my options really narrowed as opposed to widened. So it was, and at first it was very uncomfortable, and then I said, you know what? Just embrace it. And in embracing it, discovered many things about myself, my family, all of the above. But I just want to say that as it opened many doors for a lot of people, I also felt that it kind of narrowed my pathway to put me in a certain slot. Yeah. Interesting. It's true. It's true. I mean, every time I go, oh, you know, it's just interesting. I mean, I'm not complaining, I'm just stating the facts and of something that happened it's just interesting. Next.
I do find that to be very interesting because when the things that I have noticed is in a different way, being an African American actor, I have the roles that I've been fortunate enough to play have always been women that have been struggling through something. Even Timoon was struggling to be accepted. She was the poor, dark girl from the wrong side of the island, and then Dessa was a slave, and Celie was a subjugated young woman, and, you know, even Sarah was chased, she killed her baby. Just all the roles that I played have always been women that were struggling through life and never just having the moment to be, you know, happy and accepted. And so while these roles have now been revived, and I'm fascinated as to how many roles that I've done that are now revived. It's hilarious to me, but because I'm still at
That's
it.
when you know you're getting old.
I'm still at it. I'm getting very old.
I've seen every revival of every show I've ever done.
And I'm seeing mine right now.
Yep, you are.
But it's great. But I'll have to say that, you know, I think that that has something to do with being a dark-skinned African-American woman, because in our history, American history, you know, there are lighter-skinned African-Americans and darker-skinned African-Americans, and throughout history, the darkest-skinned African-American, and female particularly, is the one that has the most subjugation, the one that's dealing with a lot of struggle. But what I've noticed today is that that isn't as prevalent as much. You know, there has been some sort of Black women now all over have been embraced. There's the hashtag Black Girl Magic out there now, and that's because the icon, the image of the Black woman now has been embraced and celebrated, and I see that throughout theater and in society as a whole. I just see that being celebrated as opposed to subjugated. So.
And just to kind of look at a different perspective of what I had to approach theater, and you know, I majored in musical theater, became famous as Miss America at 20 years old, and then it was harder for me to not be labeled a beauty queen. So it wasn't, the skin color didn't matter, it was the level of talent that I had to prove over and over and over again. So that was never, my skin color was never a blockade for me to get a part. I mean, luckily I played, you know, in Bye Bye Birdie, which is considered, you know, Cheetah did that, but that's considered Latina, but it wasn't like, she's not Latin. I got a chance to do it because of my talent. So I've had to kind of backdoor my entire career and say, knock, 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 I'm gonna have to show you. So I didn't have to deal with that struggle of being perceived in terms of what I looked like, but it was more performance, and which was kind of circumventing the whole thing.
What was each of your favorite role you've ever played and the most challenging role you've ever played? And maybe it's the same and maybe it's different. Surprise us.
Wait, I want to do the other question.
Oh, sure, go for it.
Still a comedian.
I grew up in Honolulu, Hawaii, where everybody kind of looks like me. Almost everybody kind of looks like me. And so when I did community theater, if I did, which was really just like 15 and 16, right? Just before I graduated. And then of course my high school, the Performing Arts Center, everybody looks just like me. So everybody, you know, if you're gonna do, I think they did Once on This Island the year after me. You know, which is my favorite musical, I swear to you, it really is. But of course, you know, and I asked how they did that because it's very much about light skin, dark skin, and how that conflict. And well, we just did light skin, dark skin, but we just Asian people. I'm like, oh, okay. And every other musical we did, Once Upon a Mattress or whatever, it didn't matter what, you know, it was just a story about people. It wasn't about skin color. So, so it was never on my radar. We did Carousel, never on my radar. Until I got to college. And it wasn't even the beginning part of college, it was just before I graduated that someone asked me about this question, basically the same question. How are you planning on motivating yourself when you have all these challenges put before you regarding what you look like? And so what do you mean? What do I look like? And they're like, well, because you're Asian. I'm only half Asian. I'm only half, so like they'll see the other half is white. So when I first started auditioning for things, they put me in a very, very blonde wig in the Annie tour, and I was a Boylan sister, and I think that was my first taste of, oh, I look different from everybody. And I was, 25 years old. Or actually, I don't know how old I was. Don't quote me on that. But I was something years old, and everything after that has been, well, you're Asian, so you can audition for Christmas Eve. Well, you're Asian, so you can audition for Imelda Marcos. You're Asian, so you can do these things. And I was like, well, when do I get to audition for Anna? Because I can play Anna in The King and I. I'm 50%, right? I can do the other roles, except when I see myself, what other people see me as, when I was in that blonde wig, or when I got the brunette or like kind of reddish brown wig, I can see what other people see. But I don't see myself that way unless I'm in a wig. Otherwise, that's the only time that my color is spoken to me, when I see a photo of myself. And every now and then, every now and then, I get surprised when a director wants to cast me as somebody who is very, very different than who I am. I played Frida in Sunday in the Park with George, right? Yeah. And next I'm playing Svetlana, Russian. It's only in those moments that I remember that I look like. Yeah.
That's amazing. For me, I don't look typical Latina. I have red hair, and so it's not really red, but. I haven't found it to be something that's constricting. I've been lucky to play things across the board, but I have to say, I love playing the Latin stuff. It's really what fills me the most with joy. I do identify with those roles in a very specific way, and they're primarily very strong women with strong convictions and strong morals and strong opinions, and it's such a relevant conversation today. So to be able to be a part of something that contributes to that sort of awakening of a consciousness, or a conversation that we've been having for a very long time, is really amazing.
Does anyone want to talk about their favorite role and their most challenging role? I knew that was going to come out as a joke, so I was like, oh god. Maybe we'll just move on to the next question. We'll pretend you guys all share. Oh, okay, no, we'll do that question. Great. Ruthie Ann, why don't you start?
Okay. Favorite, and it's hard. I've really had like two roles that are like my babies. I love all my babies equally.
Pick two.
I'll pick two. Okay, so for very different reasons, and I will talk about them both. Imelda Marcos was maybe my hardest role, because I had started rehearsals 5 weeks after giving birth to my daughter, and so I was like, not like, my organs are still going back to their old place, and it's stilettos. I could hardly walk to the subway. I'm like pumping. We're doing this 90-minute disco show where I have to just sing for 90 minutes, and hormones, no joke. I mean, they really messed with my body. And so for not only reasons, like physical reasons, it was the hardest thing I have maybe ever done in my life, Here Lies Love. But also so rewarding, because I didn't think that my body as a woman, I did not think I was capable of that kind of achievement. I would have put myself in I just had this, I have to take care of myself, and I'm just going to keep it small. But I was not forced to. I really wanted to. We took it out of town when I was pregnant, and they were like, well, we'll open in April. And I was like, I'll get pregnant in January, it'll be fine. Naive. So naive. But I had already committed to this thing, so I pushed it. I went through and I pushed through it, and it was challenging that way, but also very, very rewarding, because I learned something about myself. Lady Tiang, for very different reasons, was very challenging, because I had nothing to, literally I was not allowed to speak, but I had so much to say, but I wasn't allowed to use my words. I had to just stand there and act it with my eyes. I didn't do that. But so it was challenging in that way, but also rewarding for obvious reasons.
Tony Award.
I would have to say most rewarding and probably most challenging at the same time was Kiss the Spy Woman again, because I was stepping in for a legend, because it was tremendously demanding dance-wise. I was also, I had my third child recently. I was still nursing. He was still a year old, so I would do like 8 shows a week and then nurse at 2 in the morning when I got home after, kicking it. And but again, it was so thrilling. In terms of challenging, it was challenging, yes, but I'd say the most petrified I was when I did a trip to Bannival with Cicely Tyson. Not that she petrified me, although she did sometimes. But as Jessie Mae Watts, my dialogue kind of drove the whole first act. And I had to do it all and memorize it all, and it was terrifying. Because again, her dialogue was the engine that kind of drove everything, and just memorizing all that stuff and being on point was a challenge, but I loved it. She's a legend. She's 90 plus. She's still kicking it, and what an honor to share 8 shows a week with Miss Cicely Tyson. It was unbelievable.
Let's see. I think I have different categories that I'd like to say.
Go for it.
The most joyful experience I had was doing Harpo Marx. It was, I really didn't even know about the Marx Brothers, and it just happened. I was in LA and they had what do they call, a film festival of all their films, and they had just invented the DVR. And so my husband had filmed all these things, and I just sat there and watched them, not knowing what was coming very near in my future, which was to be able to do Harpo Marx on Broadway and A Day in Hollywood and A Night in Ukraine. So it was just so much fun because as a kid, I grew up looking at physical comedians like Imogene Coca and Lucille Ball and Lily Tomlin and all these, Carol Burnett. I just loved it, and I loved all that exaggeration of the physical. And so Harpo that's all he was. Talk about not being able to talk. So I got such joy from that, but I also got terror because I really felt like some nights I was possessed. I felt like an outer whatever would actually enter my body and I could do no wrong, and I was on that stage and it just happened. And other times I look in the mirror and I go, where are you? It's 5 minutes and you're not here yet. And I was terrified. It was crazy. So I would go out there and act as Harpo as opposed to inhabit him. And so when I did inhabit him, it was so joyful because he was such a joyful spirit, and I loved the fantasy of that show and everything, and it all paid off very nicely. I was rewarded with a Tony Award, which made me very happy. So that was my most joyful. And what else? A chorus line, because it was my story, and I got to be Deanna Morales without all the trappings of what people might have thought Deanna Morales was, and it was just the most special, original, unrepeatable experience I've ever had. So I guess those were 2 joyfuls. I don't have nasty memories about when I went.
I'd have to say my favorite, I guess the question was, what's my favorite?
Yes.
Okay, well, my most joyful was Timoon in Once on This Island. Now, there are several of you out there who didn't see me do it because you weren't born yet, but when I auditioned for Once on This Island, I didn't have an agent or a manager or anything. I was looking in the backstage, and I went to an open call. So I didn't know what I was going in for back then. But they wanted a woman, young girl, who could play this character. And at that time in my career, I was just so hungry to do the best that I could, to be the best that I could be, that I just went in there and I gave it 100%. And when I finally got the job after 5 auditions, I kept working. I just kept working. It was such an experience for me because I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about the business, and I learned a lot about developing a character, and I learned a lot about stamina and what it takes to do 8 shows a week, and the rewards of it, the appreciation from the audience, and the growth of a character over time. So, and then it became a cult favorite, and I meet young girls all the time, Asian girls and
Hispanic girls is my favorite too.
Hispanic girls, I mean, and girls from everywhere that say, I was T-Moon, and it brings me so much joy. I met a couple T-Moons today during autographs, so it was truly my most joyful experience.
I'm having an oh my god, I'm on stage with T-Moon moment right now. Like, it's crazy.
My favorite and the most challenging? Is that what it is?
Yes, Janet.
Okay, sure. My favorite, I'd have to say that Carlin in the Heights has been my favorite. And the reason that is because some of you who were here earlier tonight and saw what happened with that group of people. It's just so real. Like, that's my family, you know? And we all got to experience this incredible ride together, and it really, we knew we had this gem and we couldn't wait to share it with the world. And having been a part of the show for so long, to see it through its entire trajectory from beginning to almost at closing was really unbelievable. But mostly because those are my brothers and sisters. Like, that's the family that I have here in New York. When something happens, I pick up the phone and call Andrea Burns. Like, that's the truth. So for that reason, I would say Carlin in the Heights. The most challenging, I would say, was Wonderland. Yeah. And the reason that is not because of the show and how long or little it ran, but it was my first time at the helm as a leading lady. And speaking to that, it just is, you are tried in so many ways, and more, as well as the physical demands and the vocal demands, it's really a testament to your character. And who you are as a human being sets the tone for everybody and everything that happens. And I had to get real quick to, I'm the one who's setting the example here for everybody. So if I feel like the ship's going down in a bad way, then everyone's gonna feel that way, you know? So it really makes you have to step up and be a leader in ways that I hadn't had to do before. But so grateful, I grew so much and learned so much from that experience.
I feel like the question, clap for that. The question gets asked of actors a lot about, like, what's your dream role? But I really want to ask you something kind of related to that, which is, if you could work with any writer, any director, any actor, who would you want to collaborate with in the future?
Pasek and Paul.
You hear that, Benji Justin? She's coming for you.
Pasek and Paul. You want more? I mean, in terms of collaboration, I would have to say right now, I saw Dear Evan Hansen, and I was just, from the very first note, from the very first couple bars, I was blown away. I'm moved. Their music is so emotional, and I just absolutely love their work, and I hope to work with them. And I've told them this several times.
When this happens, you can all be like, we knew first. This whole room knew first.
Yeah, there are 2 composers that I'm looking forward to working with somewhere down the road.
Yeah.
So.
Anyone else?
Well, mine is an aside to kind of go back to where we were about moments. I've been able to work with Stephen Sondheim twice in my career. First in Into the Woods, when we did the revival back in 2002, and then again Sondheim and Sondheim in 2010. And we talked about our moments on stage and what was our best, but a personal moment, which comes around to composers and music, and I mentioned Cicely Tyson. My two most favorite moments of working with legends like Barbara Cook, who was 83 when we did Sondheim and Sondheim, and also Cicely, who is, we don't know what the mystery age, but we think she was close to 90 when she did Trip to Baniful. The joy that they both had when I took their arms and led them off stage every night. They looked like they were 13 again. The joy in their eyes, they were doing what they were meant to be doing, and they felt not only elated, but like a child again. And they would grab my hand, both of them. Actually, we scooped up Cicely every night off the floor, and she would kick her heels because we started this thing and scooped her up, and she would say, "That was a good one." And you could see the fire in her eyes at 9 years old, being happy to be in 8 shows a week because she felt alive again, and that's what her purpose was. Same thing with Barbara Cook. Barbara Cook was 83, had some issues with her knees. I just sang at her memorial a couple months ago. Amazing woman, great stories, salt of the earth woman, and every time we got back to the wings, she said, "That was a good one. That was a good one. We did it. We did it." And she'd pat my hand. And that's what I want to feel when I'm in my 90s and still on the stage making beautiful music with composers that I love, music that I love to sing, and it makes me feel like I'm alive. That's the real joy and the things that you don't see, the wings, but we know that we feel it in our hearts.
Barbara Cook wrote an amazing book that you guys should all check out, just to theater nerd out a little bit. It's an incredible book.
I'll work with whoever will have me.
Can I say just another thing now, since we're talking about Sondheim?
Yes, you can, Vanessa Williams.
One of the amazing moments that we did, got a chance to do, which was kind of a through line from being the witch and Into the Woods and having to sing Children Will Listen. So James Call says we're doing a review, but we're doing a series of interviews of Stephen's life. We're going to put it together. It's going to be called Sondheim and Sondheim. We'd like to be a part of it. I said, absolutely. There's a moment in Sondheim and Sondheim, if you haven't seen it, where we as a cast sing Children Will Listen after Stephen tells a story about his mother. And I know you know this story, most of anyone who knows about Stephen. There's a clip of Stephen talking about his mother going in for open heart surgery. And while he's a younger man, he gets a letter the night before she goes into surgery saying, "The only regret I have in my life is giving birth to you." That's exactly what the audience does. The audience is astounded. And then we walk out and say, "Careful the things you say, children will listen." And everyone is destroyed. And destroyed, and I'm talking about destroyed, tears, you can hear the sobbing, the people trying to catch their breath. Those are the moments where, as a witch, you say, "Oh, what a nice song," and then she's wrapping it all up, careful things, we all come out with our bow. When it's in context with what Stephen was thinking when he wrote that song, and how his mother never even wanted him to walk the face of the earth. It is compelling and allows you as an artist to try to get through it, but it allows the artist to sing it in a completely different way, and the audience to, or the singer to sing it in a different way, and the audience to experience it in a completely different way.
On that note.
Okay? All right.
Are we okay?
We're good. We're good.
Okay.
We just have a couple minutes left, so I wanted to just ask, what are you excited about in 2018? It can be anything at all, something you're working on, something you're doing in 2018.
I'm working on something.
And she's a long time coming, so we're really excited. Yeah. And then I think King and I's happening in London. So. They announced it. Did they? Yeah. They did. They didn't announce it. They didn't announce it.
Oh no.
They did it. We did.
Yeah.
it. Everyone knows it. I got a chance to work with Ruthie this summer doing Sondheim and Sondheim at the Hollywood Bowl, so she's phenomenal. I'm doing encores in 2 weeks. So we open 7th through the 11th, and it's called Hey Look Me Over, and it's a Jack Vertel review, and I'm doing 2 Lena Horne show-stopping numbers from Jamaica. Can't wait.
I'm going to a lot of weddings. My son is getting married. My baby. I have a niece who's getting married. My daughter's in love. I feel it's like a very, when you work for as many years as we all do, you miss so many things. I have missed so many birthdays, anniversaries, you know, a lot of family stuff. And now, as my days are gone, I'm just really relishing in just living and enjoying my family and the things that come up in my family. In fact, when I get a plane ticket and I go, oh God, I hope nothing comes up. And I said, not this time. This time I gotta go, because if, you know, when do you start going? When do you make those choices in your life? I've had more professional joys, in a sense, than family, what is it called, milestones celebrated. So as of 2018, I am going to enjoy my family milestones.
It's definitely a choice that we make as women in theater. But, you know, everyone, as much as we love getting on stage 8 times a week, we give up our nights and our weekends. And that means we give up a lot. We give up fencing matches and, you know, football games and birthdays and family events. So it's while we love performing for you, your night out is our night at work. So we don't get to go out that much, and we miss a lot on the weekend. So although we love it so much, it's a huge sacrifice. So when you have a chance to be with your family, it's so exciting, because we're all, you know, we know what it's like to be a part of a family and have to give up something very special, and the torture that we go through because we have to give up so much. I was pregnant. I gave birth to my daughter right before I did The Bubbly Black Girl Sheds Her Vermilion Skin, and I was 3 weeks in, and again, I was like, oh sure, I'll be ready. I'm sure I'll be ready to go back to work, and my hips hadn't even come back together yet. And I was, you know, crying, and, you know, it was very difficult, but we do give up a lot, so it's nice to have an opportunity to just say, I'm going to my son's wedding and you can't make me take a sick day, you know? But it's really special after having such a glorious career, so.
That will continue.
So I'm gonna be doing the Broadway musical Summer. About the life of Donna Summer. We're going to rehearsal in 2 weeks. We open at the L'Enfantin April 23rd. I'm playing Diva Donna. There are 3 of us playing Donna. There's Storm Lever, who's playing Little Donna. There's Ariana DeBose, who's playing Disco Donna. And I'm playing Diva Donna. So come check us out.
Exciting. Oh, I can't wait to see that. I'm actually really excited to announce I have a business that I've actually am launching here at BroadwayCon. It's called Broadway Coaching. Yeah! Yes! And essentially it's online lessons with your favorite Broadway stars. So you can go on Skype and get one-on-one training with theater professionals from wherever you are in the world. And yeah, come check us out at booth 423. I will be here all weekend, and I can't wait to see how that continues to grow. Yeah.
Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us. This has been amazing. Thank you guys for joining us, and enjoy BroadwayCon.
Thank you.